Sambuddhassa sadhu sakshi. So today we are going to share some of our stories and our memories of Sister Khema or Shasana Deepika Khanti Khema, as she was kind of formally known. So Venerable Khema has been doing the Dhamma work or in the path of the Dhamma for more than 22 years. So in the year 2000, she met Bante, and from that time onwards, she has been with Bante off and on and continuously following his as a student. So there was a lot of information which was given in her memoirs, which she and her one of her students had Deepa. They both had kind of collaborated and made a memoir. I will just share this PDF copy, and I will share this once or twice because as this Zoom works, is if I share that document now, if anybody else joins us later, then they will not be able to access this document. That's the reason I'll maybe share it once or twice when the meeting is going on. So just to kind of that you know, and this document you can download, and I'll also share it in our groups later. So first, I would like to invite if Pierre is ready, then I'll invite him because he has been taking care of Sister for the last 1.5 years. Initially, Shitsna had gone for a to teach and to explore possibilities of having a center or a way of teaching in Europe. So Pierre had helped Sister come. He arranged for the tickets and which were comfortable, and took care of her a lot. And she was very happy when she was there. Before she had gone, she was aware that she had cancer. So I'm not sure how we found out, but I think there was a medical examinations which were going on regularly because of her knee problem. So, and there was a knee replacement surgery which was kind of considered. But at one point of time, the doctor said that you don't require a knee replacement. And later on, we found out that she actually had cancer. So now, initially, what happened is when in India there was a lot of examination which was done, CT scans and blood tests and X-rays, and all of this was done multiple times. But they could not find the source of the cancer. The source of the cancer was important to map out the treatment. So what they did was they said that these are the papers you can, if you are already going to Poland, then you can take, and Pierre also kind of offered generously to take care of the thing, medical, whatever examination is there. In Poland, they kind of worked many months to find the source of the cancer. Once the source of the cancer was found, it was a breast cancer which was metastasized in the bones, and it was from the head to the toes, all the area, the cancer had spread. And they did two kinds of therapy on her. One was the hormonal therapy, which was given intravenously, and the other was the radiation therapy. Both of the therapies, it was very painful. And after the radiation therapy, she had a lot of burns all over the body, and it was her health kind of deteriorated. So it also resulted in her fall. When they were trying to shift her from Poland to Hungary, she had a fall, and she had a severe kind of situation because it was considered that her neck was severely affected by the cancer. And after that, she was in a hospital, and we thought that we had lost her. And we almost expected that she may kind of leave us at that point of time. But she kind of bounced back, and then Pierre and his kind of team of people who are there. There is Cameron is there, Patrick is there, Aaron is there. They all got together and said, we will ensure that she goes to Hungary, because they were also moving over there. So they arranged an ambulance, they arranged for a nursing home plus hospice over there, and they shifted her over there. She slowly recovered, and then in between, again, she kind of fell ill and was almost kind of bedridden. Again, this happened for the third time, that her condition kind of deteriorated this time. So I would like Pierre to kind of first help us kind of understand what was the whole thing, because he was very, from the start, he had been kind of supportive, and he was the reason why she had gone to Poland. Here, if you can kind of share her journey over there in Poland and the last
Yeah.
days.
So we met first through online. I did an online retreat with her. During this retreat, during one of the Dharma talks, we eventually started just talking a little bit more generally. And during this, we went on some side tangents, which is just started talking about all sorts of things. Then we started talking about how hot it was where she was living. So she was living in southern India, in a place where she didn't have any AC at the moment. And so I pretty much just made a joke. I'm like, well, I should fly you to Europe then, where you can have it a little bit colder. Because I was staying in Sweden at the moment, and she kind of said, well, you shouldn't joke with me like that, because I will actually do it. And then I kind of replied to her, well, you shouldn't joke with me like that, because I'll actually do it as well. Then the retreat kept going, and then we stayed in touch a lot after the retreat, because I was in a position where I could pretty much spend all day, every day, just practicing TWIM. And she noticed that, so she wanted to keep giving me interviews, and then we just kept talking more and more. And then I just brought it up again. I'm like, so how are you doing in the heat over there? Do you feel like you actually need to come to Europe? Because we can probably make that happen. And she said it was very, very, very warm, and her health was in a decline. She didn't know what was going on. She just knew her health was in a decline. So I figured, well, the healthcare we can get her in Europe is pretty good, and she can be in a climate that's a lot easier for her to cope with. So we flew her over here, and that is much more than just our generosity. We actually ran a whole little fundraiser with our clients, because she couldn't fly regular economy because it was hard. She needs to be able to lie down. So we got her business flight over here. Lots of clients chipped in for this. She came to Poland. And as she came to Poland is when her health started to really take a little bit more of a downturn. So it was perfect timing for her to come here. So we started running tests, and one of our clients who was living with us at the time, Lubomir, was incredible with his help, and extremely generous with his time. So he was helping us with sister. He was putting in just as much work as we were doing, maybe even more. So we were doing tests, and all the tests were negative at first. We were probably doing a new test every single day for maybe a whole month or two. And they were negative, and we did tests around cancer, and they were negative at first. And we eventually came to a place where it was almost pretty much declared that it's not cancer and it's not terminal. which of course was a bit of a relief. But of course, Anitra comes in and surprises us, and pretty much 2 days after that, we get a test result for the cancer to be positive. During this time, her neck gets really bad, so it's hard to take her places, hard to drive her places. She gets this. She basically wakes up with this extremely stiff neck. But she is extremely uplifted the entire time. And the only thing that she seems to really care about is to teach the Dhamma. So she's doing interviews with us every single day. And so we're basically in a multiple month-long retreat with her, which is pretty incredible. And we will sit and read suttas with her, and she'll explain to us how to really understand the suttas. And it's very interesting to watch, because she can be very tired some days and need lots of sleep, and she can be in so much pain. But if you just mention a word from the Dhamma, it's like everything goes away, and she will sit there for 3-4 hours and just bombard you with Dhamma. She'll stay up until early morning if it goes that way. There's no stopping her as soon as she starts speaking of the Dhamma. Then, of course, as soon as that's over, then she's very tired again and she's in pain. But as long as the Dhamma is mentioned, it's like everything goes away for her. It was really incredible to see the strength and the confidence in the Dhamma. There was not a moment of her feeling any kind of sorrow over what was going on. And when the doctors were telling her about this, she just felt compassion for them, because she saw that they were being troubled delivering the news to her. So she kind of laughed a little bit and started teaching her about anicca and the Dhamma. It was really something special to watch. Then we moved from Poland to Hungary. And she was getting better, but right as the day she was going to go to the airport, I was not there that day. I was in another country, but Patrick was the one taking care of her at the time. She fell. I think she slipped on something, and that made her very, very, very bad. She had to spend several weeks in the hospital in Poland. She couldn't go to Hungary anymore. Her short-term memory suddenly was a lot worse. It was really bad some days. But still, if you reminded her of the Dhamma, she remembered the Dhamma perfectly, and she would just start teaching you. Then eventually she got a little bit better, and we could get her to Hungary, thanks to Gus, who's running the hospice in Hungary. Because at first we thought we would have to get her to Hungary through some sort of medivac special airplane kind of thing that would cost us many thousands of euro, which at the time we couldn't afford anymore, and Damasuka would come and help. And then Gus basically took it upon himself to organize an ambulance trip that was just a fraction of the cost. And so Gus has been just incredible this whole time. So then she gets to Hungary, where we all relocate to. She's weak for a while, then she starts walking more. She gets very clear for a while, starts teaching more, starts talking about setting up some form of institution in Hungary. We start looking at a few other things, getting involved with some orphanage as well. Yeah, we had lots of good plans together, and she was very, very determined to make those happen. Then there's another fall and she gets worse again. So it seemed every time that there was a fall, it probably jolted her central nervous system so much that the cortisol response in the body probably caused the sickness, to the disease to grab more of a hold of her physical body, which of course affected her mind as well. Then she got better again. It was the entire time, it felt as if every time she got really sick, she just decided that it's not time yet. Yeah, it was pretty incredible to watch, really. Then she hit her head now again, and this time it felt different immediately. It felt like she had made the decision that this probably is, maybe not consciously, but it felt like there was like, okay, now it's kind of the time. Then she went into more or less a coma-like state. And she was coming in and out of it at first. And very uplifted the whole time whenever she was out of it. Memory was getting a lot worse. There were certain things we tried to remind her of, but she couldn't remember really. But as soon as you mentioned the Dhamma, it was just like sister. No change really. And then she came into more of a basically complete coma state where she didn't come out of it at all. And so we would go there and we would read different suttas for her that Bhante Dhammagevesi asked us to read. And her breathing changed so notably every time we started to read. You could tell her mind was picking up on the Dhamma very, very clearly. And one time we were sharing merit and I forgot the prayer, and halfway through the prayer I was stumbling. She came out of the coma state, told me I need to learn the prayer again, and then helped me recite the next few verses until she went back. So her last spoken words were sharing merit as well, which was pretty incredible. And yeah, then eventually she passed, which also had lots of interesting timing, being the International Peace Day and International Bhikkhuni Day, I believe Dhammagevesi told me as well. So she picked the timing as well. It really felt like none of this, there was no coincidences going on at all during the time that we met her. Everything felt like it was chosen in a very interesting way. So that's pretty much the journey that we had with sister.
Thank you for sharing. I would like to invite Saurav to kind of share, because he has been to Dhammasukha when they, I think, were in tents and all those things were also available. And at that time, a sister was there with Bante over there. So some of our memories at that time, if you can share, Saurav.
Sure, Bhante. I met Sister Khema in the December of 2008 when she was basically just running Dhammasukha. Bhante was the spiritual guide, and Sister had been there a few years. That tent arrangement had just been shifted to an actual kuti and a Dhamma hall and a dining hall, which you wouldn't believe that Sister Khema practically built the initial Dhamma Sukha with her hands. I mean, she was such a practical person that she could ride those fancy, machines. She could operate saws. It was really amazing to see her work with her hands. Very multifaceted personality, and in Dhamma talks, she would be, uh, leading us in the morning for the refugees and be there for the Dhamma talk, arranging for the meals. There was a cook there, but sister had to do a lot of work around the place. And I had a very intellectual kind of bent of mind who wanted to, know reasons for things and all that. And sister was one to fully satisfy all those kind of questions. She had built a nice library and she gave me all the, philosophical background to the practice. And of course, Bhante's magic, just the way he leads retreat really worked. And fortunately for me, the interaction happened through my 2 years in America, constantly with sister, and I was continually amazed. We invited her over to Seattle once, where with Bhante she gave some talks, and one unique sort of thing about Sister Khema was given the varied background she had, varied things she had done with her life. In her life, she'd raised 3 children and she'd run businesses. She could so easily connect with, all the students coming from different backgrounds, you know. So that was really amazing how she could connect with people. And in fact, she told me, that you have such a great medicine system in India of Ayurveda, and me as a trained in or believer in Western science or whatever was not much of a believer in the Indian system, and I think some of that recommendation from her probably led me to choose my wife, who's an Ayurvedic doctor. So maybe Sister Khema gets some credit for that. Um, Later, when she moved to Sri Lanka, and this was really her wish, to do work in Asia. She'd been longing to do work in Malaysia, Indonesia. So it finally settled upon Sri Lanka. And fortunately for us in India, it settled upon India eventually. That's where I believe she did the maximum, had the maximum impact in Asia. From 2 retreats at Deer Park, which she really loved that center, and how she wowed all the retreatants there, and then how the trust was formed, and then many retreats done in Pune, Bombay area, in Jetwan area. She wanted to build a kuti and center in Aurangabad. That didn't work out, but sister wasn't one to, get sort of disheartened if an attempt didn't work. She would go at it again and again and again until things worked. So that was really something to watch, like just how much energy she carried. The last interaction with her was at Jetwan, where she was unwell and we went to a doctor together. And even then, despite her illness, I mean, she was so widely learned. She could talk to the doctor about the bacteria and the other problems she was facing. And the doctor was quite amazed that this nun knows so much, about medical science. So she really was a very unique personality and really a carrier of the Dhamma in its best sense. And in the Indian tradition, there is, sannyas and vanpras that happens after 50. And I think sister really did that, like years of training under Bhante and then actually guiding so many householders and even monks. So I'm truly blessed to have met and interacted and have learned from Sister Khema. Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you for sharing. I would like to invite Dr. Bharat, who, as you mentioned about the trust, he is the founder of the trust. He kind of also organized a retreat for Bhante and Sister Khema. I was not able to be there for the whole of the retreat. I was there only for 2 days, I think so. But he kind of managed it took care of the thing. The food was not kind of proper, so he would send his driver to get stuff from Pune, and he did a lot in that retreat. So if you can share some of your experiences.
Thank you, Banteji. With Sister Khema, the first encounter was in Deer Park, which was a retreat arranged by Saurabh ji, who just spoke. And it was a fascinating duo, Banteji on one side and Sister Khema on the other. And very often they had interaction which were sometimes stimulating for the students, because Banteji would say something and Sister Khema would remind him of something else and present the same matter in a very different way, and which was really wonderful. She used the whiteboard, and I still have all her pictures of the whiteboard, whatever she drew. Just fantastic at explanations. So what I would say, Banteji had the aura and the charisma that was completed by Sister Khema by providing all the insights and the details and all the nuances about Dhamma, and the way she would explain dependent origination. I think all of us have witnessed that. There is nothing better. I mean, before I met Sister Khema and Banteji in 2018, I was already studying Buddhism for several years, at least 4 years. But dependent origination was something that never was understood so well, because it was always in the books described over 3 lifetimes and whatnot. So it was something very difficult to imagine or understand. While the way it was put down by Sister Khema, she has if some of you have not heard that, she has a very nice workshop on dependent origination, which is recorded in YouTube and in the channel, which you can go through, and it's really wonderful. I mean, that's something that is stuck in my head. And then I somehow, it was a selfish motive. I wanted to have another retreat with these two great teachers. So we planned something near Mumbai, and that happened to be the last one that we could have Banteji as well as Sister Khema as the teachers for that retreat. And then, of course, Sister Khema continued in Asia. She was available to us for almost 2 years before she moved to Poland. And she, despite her illness, had so much enthusiasm that the trust is not because of us, it is because of her push. I mean, it was also COVID time, and it was difficult to get papers moving, and the things were not so easy because the offices were not working, the officers were not working, and it was a nightmare really to get things done. And each time we had a meeting every 2 weeks, I would have a blank face. Oh, nothing has been done in 2 weeks. So, I mean, that was very embarrassing to face her each time with a negative answer. But then she just kept encouraging, and it happened. So we are now a robust organization with a lot of enthusiastic volunteers who have come forward. And it's going very well, I would say, for a trust which is just 2 years old. I would thank Sister Khema for making that happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing. I would like Dr. Madhusudanji, who has done a lot also, and he kind of came to Jetwan first to meet Bante and Sister. Yes. So, Dr. Madhusudanji, can you just share some of your experiences?
Are you able to listen to me?
Yes, now.
Bante. So I met Sister Khema. I call her Mataji. Most of the Indians call her Mataji. She is a mother figure like at the Buddha's time, Mahapajapita Gautami was there, the head of the Bhikkhuni Sangha. So like that, she was in the modern times. I met her first time in 2019 February, Jetwan, and I found her very charming personality, always laughing and all, and supporting Bhante's teaching very well. So next time she came, Bhante in 2019, after Bhante left, she stayed in India, and she was staying in a vihara near Mumbai. There also I met her. She was ill and she needed some medicine, so I went there. And even when she was ill, she inquired about my practice, and she gave me some lessons there also, even when she was ill. Then I sat retreat with her and Bhante in 2020 February at Chaiton Yavatmal, and I found her explanations very detailed explanations. She used charts, she used a whiteboard, and she used a lot of examples from her own life to explain Dhamma. I read that she was an opera singer and managing director in her previous before she became nun, and she built the Dhamma Sukha with her own hands, and she only started the online retreats through which most of us got introduced to the TWIM. Without online retreats, the TWIM would not have spread so much. So it is her contribution to the spread of the TWIM that she started the online retreats. And she's also pioneer of the SVT. As just now Dr. Bharat told that she helped the trust to start. She was the sole inspiration behind all the activities in India. She wrote so many books for making the TWIM understand the people. She wrote the toolkit, she wrote Brahma Viharas, she wrote the Nevermind game, and she has a prepared material for children's course. But it was kept in Ulhasnagar. I don't know where it is now, that material. So that material is yet to be used for the children. And she stayed in India again in 2020. Bhante and she were caught up in Goa. They went to Goa, and the COVID period started, and they were stuck in there. And at that time also, they showed a lot of equanimity, and they were stable in their minds. And after that, in June, Bhante left, and Sister Khema stayed here. Then she shifted to Ulhasnagar. In Ulhasnagar, although it was not all the convenient to her, but she stayed to teach us, and she started the Wednesday and Sunday Zoom meetings from Goa only when Bhante was there, and still there those meetings are going on. And yeah, she conducted online retreats also, and some physical retreats also in Ulhasnagar also. And then again she went to Jetwan. She conducted 2 retreats there. I think those were the last retreats by her. After that, she fell ill, and she had to leave for Poland. But till the time she could teach, she kept teaching, and she was always very generous in teaching Dhamma, and she used to give very elaborate explanations, and lot of people benefited her. Without her, the work in India, the spread of TWIM in India was not possible. I pay all my tributes to her, and I pray that she reaches the final Nibbana as early as possible.
So I just wanted to give a little overview about how she kind of ended up over here. Initially, what happened is that when Bante and Sister Khema were there in Malaysia doing a retreat, she also was a pioneer in Malaysia, where she kind of went over there upon an invitation, and then starting kind of teaching over there, and then invited Bante, and we had a lot of retreats in Malaysia. In one of those retreats, Bante was not feeling well, and I think Saurav suggested, we had a discussion with Saurav, and they suggested that they go to Chennai for Ayurvedic treatment. They went there, and they had kind of a good experience, and there are a lot of pictures also. I think the nun was also there, Sister Obasa, and they kind of stayed over there, and she kind of liked, I think so, the India she saw. Then later on, there is one other Kashama, or I cannot pronounce her name properly, but she was a professor in Aurangabad. She came to Malaysia, and that time she spoke to Sister Khema, and they were then invited her to Aurangabad. So after this treatment, she went to Aurangabad. Bante went back to his center, and sister Shama Kobragade. Shama Kobragade was the lady who kind of invited her. And then from there on, she met Dr. Ananda, Bante Dr. Ananda. So Dr. Ananda took her to Jetwan, and the Bansod family was very kind of welcoming, and they kind of invited them to do the retreat. So Bante was also there on the second trip. The first trip, Sister Khema was alone, but then the second trip, she invited Bante also to come with him and visit that center. And after they visited the center, Bante was happy with the center. He said, okay, this is adequate. Even if I don't have all the facilities, I will kind of come over here. She was not very demanding. He did not say, I want a AC room or I want this and that. He said, okay, it is, if you have a roof, I can, and 4 walls, I'll be there. And after that, he did that. Oh, somebody's sharing the screen. Then from there on, Saurav also had, and there are many retreats organized for Bante and sister over here. So that is the process how they came. So I am getting a call from Ramesh Bansurji. So I'll just take, I would invite Sunil. Please if you can share your experiences.
Yeah, I was I was not surprised, but I was still very shocked when I got this message 3 days ago. Can I talk after 5 minutes? Thank you.
Meanwhile, would somebody else from India like to share? I think Bhante will ask people from Malaysia and Indonesia later, so maybe we can cover folks
Yeah,
from India first.
I think if she was a warrior and she could fight death, I can surely fight enough to just speak for a few minutes, right? I think she showed us how to play snakes and ladders literally in life. And never really give up, and I could see she used to fight a lot of things inside herself. She used to fight her own anger, she used to fight her own despair. Quite frankly, I think she missed being loved by her children or grandchildren, and I think that's a big learning for a lot of us. Much as we choose our to give up our worldly lives, I don't think we ever really give up our attachment to this world. And I saw her really trying to find herself, despite the fact that she was giving us all so much, and she gave us all a lot. I think she was still looking for something herself, and she had a very hard time in Mumbai because it was not really home, and she didn't have a full setup. And like Bhante Damagavesi mentioned, that knee of hers was really bothering her. And I don't think we were able to make her home much as we did everything else. I don't think she was really at home here. Maybe she suffered a lot in the lockdown when she was with Bhante Vimlaramsi in Goa, when we, had the benefit of taking the online retreats because of whatever happened. And somewhere she and I started talking, and and she started sharing all her difficulties and her troubles, and how she was, not able to, get what she wanted, or how to get along locally. And she gave me a lot of credit for learning a lot of the Dhamma and helping her practice it back. And I was quite surprised. I said, no, you're the teacher. But she said, no, yes, even the teacher sometimes just needs the student to remind them from time to time. So that there was a lot of humility and acceptance as well that I learned in the process, is that never think that you are smart enough and that you're a teacher. As a teacher also, you will just keep learning back from your students as well. So I'm really happy I had that retreat. I thank Dr. Agarwal to actually call me into this into the Samanta Vipassana Sangha. I had the retreat just a week before the lockdown, and I think it helped me survive because of everything I went through it. I'm happy to be a part of Samanta Vipassana Sangha in India. And I put some photos up, but I'm happy to share them if people would like to see them.
Okay.
That was in Vajradhatu, the first time I saw her. But that was February 2020. And that was with Bhante Vimla Ramsey. That's the 10 days that I got to see him. I had the privilege of doing a retreat with him. And we went for some site visits. She was so keen to set up a Samatha Vipassana Sangha center. I mean, she had a lot of aspirations for having a huge center. She would make these calculations about acred land which had vanaprastha inside it, and a place where you could really go and find a sanctuary and really do the retreat in the true sense of how they did the retreat in the days of the Buddha, for example. I think she used to enable that. And when I look at this picture, if you look at it, there's such a peaceful, blissful face there. I don't know how clearly you can see it. And this is another time that she did another retreat for monks and nuns at Kundanpur itself again. And she was very keen to take this and convert this to a center for Samatha Vipassana Sangha as a twin center. So maybe I think we should work towards her dream and bring it to fruition someday. She was, this is, I think 5 hours is very clearly, 6 hours is so clearly visible in this photograph, right? And she was always so compassionate to all the creatures. So this is not very clearly visible, but she's talking to a calf as if, just really heart to heart. I don't think you can get the audio there, but she's just really talking to that calf, like the calf really understands her. And then she would go and talk to the plants, each one of them. Here she is trying to rescue a small frog from the water. I mean, the frog belongs in the water, but she's playing with it. She was actually talking to it. And she rescued this small little mouse and took it and gave it shelter in her kuti in the same retreat. And she said she saved it because it was kind of dying or something. And she gave it food and love and made it recover. And here she's taking it to go and release it back somewhere. And look at her energy. And I used to wonder, how she does all these things, but she's always just so strong, actually. So she was mentally strong, but I think somewhere something just got to her. Just look at that. So, just thank you. Nothing to add, really. Just impermanence is where we can always find her. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. That is very kind of insightful experiences. And as kind of one other thing is that when I was kind of introduced to Sister Khema, she was trying to open a center in Sri Lanka. So she said that there is a monk who is kind of willing to give us a center, come over here. And that was the first time I had interacted on email. I had not done a physical retreat of twin, but I kind of was gearing towards it because I was staying in a monastery in Thailand, and I was listening to Bante's talks and everything. And she was always trying to kind of get a physical kind of center for in Asia, because she said that she wants to bring Bante in the cold season to a warm place. So that was her kind of impetus or the force what kind of drove her to kind of search for a center or a physical place where she could bring Bante over. See, as we have time, I'll just share what there is a video which was a media message which has been shared by one of our kind of online guides, and he's also he's not for Dhammasukha and SVT, but dhammasukha.org. He does online retreats, and he had been a part of the local our what you call Sangha also, and he has shared that is Rajiv Dinesh. He has shared a message because what has happened is that he was not able to kind of be in an area where he can join the Zoom meeting. So I'll just share his video message. It is just a 2-minute message. Then we can go to Hugh, and Hugh may have a lot of experiences. He has done a retreat with the sister also in Poland. So we can go to Hugh, and then he can just share. This is just a 2-minute one.
Thanks everyone. I'm in a place with limited connectivity, so I'm sharing a recorded message here. Today's a day to remember and celebrate the life of Sister Khema, someone who has touched all our lives in a very, very beautiful way. Sister Khema was very warm, very loving, and very adventurous, as you might have seen in the video I shared. I'm quite sure she's the only nun who parasailed from one of the highest points in the world on her 70th birthday.
Oh, sorry. I
For struggling to outperform.
I'm sorry.
Always memorable and notable about Sister Khema is the joy and warmth that she brought to the teaching and her tireless commitment to spreading the Dhamma. The Sangha in Asia is largely driven by her efforts, tireless efforts in sharing the Dhamma, giving weekly talks, and it's extended to Central Europe, the UK as well. And I really believe she outperformed what her mission in life was. And I think the greatest lesson for us all is whenever we are in any kind of strife or struggling to be wholesome, it's a great time to remember Sister Khema. Let it be, let it be, let it be, as you would say, or never mind, as she said in her book. I would also like to point out that I think one of Sister Khema's great contribution was to enable Bhante Vibhudaramsi after his rediscovery of the film technique, acting as a pillar of strength for Bhante to be able to do what he did. So I really like to call that out as well. So much gratitude to Sister Khema. I had the great privilege of interacting with her a number of times, and also taught a retreat with her while she was in Maharashtra, in Vashi, and spent a fair amount of time. It's a great privilege for me. So once again, let's use this opportunity to celebrate her life. That's what she'd want. She'd want her memory to bring a smile to our faces and act as a reminder to be loving and kind always.
So that was Rajiv Dinesh. And I would like to invite Hugh and Sarah to kind of share. Hugh has done a lot of retreats with Bhante and has known sister for a kind of a long time. I think you may have met in Germany when they had come for a retreat. And recently he has done a few retreats with me, and his kind of infusion of yoga with the twin principles, the embodiment of twin. Twin embodied the yoga, the what he teaches is a kind of a way of kind of movement, twin in movement, and many people have benefited from his kind of wisdom. And he has done a retreat with Pierre and Sister Khema in Poland. He has a lot of experiences he can share. So Hugh, please, if you can share some of your experience.
Yes, thank you, Bhante. I mean, my overriding feeling is really just a joyfulness around the memory of Sister, and also feeling about, you know, how the recent months have been such a challenge for her, and to have transcended that and to gone through that, and really to have gone through that with a lot of grace. I last saw Sister just before Christmas when she was moving into the hospice in Bucharest. And I had the good fortune to have a few conversations with her then. And she was still, I mean, the way you could put it was just indomitable. She, you know, she lived with the limitations of what was developing in her body, but her mind, for the large part, was still bright, and she was still very focused on Dharma and teaching Dharma, and if anything, frustrated that she couldn't continue to do so, and you know, look forward to the possibility that she may get back to doing that. But I first met Sister Khema, I think it was in either 2008 or 2009, and it was in a retreat in Germany. And what struck you very much was the contrast between Bhante Veeramsi and Sister Khema. They complemented each other so well. Those of you who were engaging around TWIM around that time and for a few years later would have been familiar with the Yahoo group. And you posted a question on the Yahoo group and you got an encyclopedic response. And this was an interesting contrast to Bhante Veeramsi, who always felt that if you could say, you shouldn't use anything with more than 4 syllables in it, and if you could use 3 syllables, then you should. And his it very much sort of followed the structure and style of the suttas, where someone has, you know, asked a question of the Buddha, or the Buddha has presented something, and the monks are all listening there, and then you know, no one asks a question, and so the Buddha retires. And then they're sort of muttering amongst the monks that have been listening and go, well, what exactly did he mean by that? And they go off somewhere to find a more detailed explanation. Well, that's exactly what you got with Sister Khema. You might have listened to a YouTube of Bhante's, or you might have something in your practice, and you'd ask her a question, and it was like you'd gone to one of the other monks and you got this encyclopedic response. And you always knew, because she would say, you know, before she replied, I've checked this out with Bhante, and I'm absolutely certain this is the response, and it was in volume, and so she was always and remained an enthusiastic Dharma teacher. And I think, because I caught a little bit of the start of this before I had to go somewhere, and I think it was Dr. Bharat mentioned, or it might have been Sharab mentioned that the amount of work that Sister Khema put in the early days of Dharma Sukha And in those early days, the stories that she would tell about what she was doing and how she was going about it were just, well, you were stunned at the sheer energy. But I think it's also worth remembering that, and possibly a little less unrecognized, because she would never have said this herself, but she was also a tremendous financial supporter of Bhante Vimarampsi in the early days. And she spent a lot of time driving Bhante around America to different retreats and to different activities. And I think she said, you know, they had crossed America numerous times. And to anyone who's got any concept of what that represents, it's a huge achievement. And Bhante would sometimes describe to me, you know, that they would have Dharma classes in this vehicle, and he would sit in one corner against the passenger seat, and she would be against the driver's seat, and she would just fire questions, and she would get this response from Bhante Vimarampsi. And the thing about Sister Khema is it all went in. And so whenever you asked a question, it all came out again. and that was a huge privilege to sit back and listen. And it was a great practice as well, because you just needed to let this information flow through you, because it was almost without being exhausted. She could talk for an hour on one subject. And the other advantage with Sister Khema is she was generous in the way she brought her own personal experience into the description of that Dharma. What she'd seen within her own experience in life, what she had seen with the people that she taught. And the consequence of that is that we have a much greater codified history of TWIM and what the practice is. And that, in no small part, is due to Sister Khema's efforts. She really wanted to try and pin down what was different, why it made a difference, how it made a difference, what information was necessary, what was not necessary. Distinguishing the essential from the unessential. And that, combined with Bhante's determination simply to present the minimum you needed to make progress. So if you listen to Bhante's talks, he's sutta based. His respect for the suttas is a profound underpinning of this approach. And his desire to explain the suttas in the context of meditation practice. And if you listen to his talks, the thing that's really impressive is by the end of the talk, you really feel you've understood something. And it's not because you've been presented with a lot of information, but you've been presented with the essential information that's been repeated through the talk. And he pulls it in from different directions and the rest of it. And that's a huge skill, to leave the listener at the end of a talk wiser than they were at the start. Not just impressed, but wiser, because they've understood something for themselves. And Sister Khema's approach was it was the same, was to take those aspects, and I think it was Dr. Bharat who was talking about the impact of being taught dependent origination. Well, the capacity to just isolate out the 7 steps of dependent origination that made a difference to your practice, and then to explore that in depth, was an example of Bhante Vimarampsi's insight. But also with Sister Khema, she then developed a way of really embedding that into the students so they understood it, not only in terms of the practice during the retreat, but also how did it relate to daily life? How did you take this information off the mat? How did you take your experience of a retreat and apply it to your daily life? These are not common skills. And so the combination of Bhante Vimramsi and Sister Khema presented a foundation for TWIM, which is about as solid as you could hope to have. And it gives us a firm foundation to build on for the future. And I think the best way to that I find to remember Sister Khema is as Bhante described, and he simply said, "I cannot fault her intention," and her intention was to understand the Dharma for herself and to propagate the Dharma to anybody who would listen, irrespective of their context. She didn't need to call it Buddhism because, as far as she was concerned, it was a humanist knowledge that if you like, the human species just needed to understand. And I suspect that is akin to how the Buddha saw it himself, as a necessary knowledge that's needed. I taught a retreat with her about 14 months ago in Poland. She was not well, and she was clearly not well. But did it stop her? Absolutely not. Did she need assistance to walk? Absolutely she did. Did she need some help at night sometimes because she couldn't sleep? Absolutely she did. Did it affect the way she transmitted the Dharma? No, it didn't. And that in itself was a huge lesson on that retreat. So my memories of Sister Khema are very fond ones. Her enthusiasm is what I would hope I can pick up on and emulate it to some small degree. Other people have talked about her extraordinary capacities in other areas of life, developing the Dharma Sukha site, the practical work she did. She had limitless stories about that. But all of those stories, if you cut through the middle of them, a bit like, I don't know if you understand the concept of rock, that rock is a sticky sugar stick that you buy in fairgrounds here, and it has words written all the way through it. Well, Sister Khema's rock, in terms of any story she told you, was there was always Dharma in the middle of it. And that was just wonderful. I don't know if you'd like to add anything, Sarah.
Wow, I'm not sure I can follow that. That seems to have encapsulated so much about Sister Khema, and I suppose what comes to my mind is on the human relating side, and Sister Khema was always very open in her sharing, and so everything was very relatable. She didn't hold back about aspects of her own life that had been difficult and around her journey into the teaching, and she always had such a, you know, everyone's might be mentioning her vitality and enthusiasm, and so she's a very inspiring and motivating role model, and the commitment that she shared, and you know, even the stories, and I wasn't here for the beginning, but some of the backbreaking work that she was involved in early on, and I remember the stories about her ending up under a tree, and you know, very dramatic practical situations that must have been really quite terrifying. But somehow Sister Khema could weave these into very relatable experiences where the Dharma was alive for her and supported her. you know, and there was one that she talked about, which was on going on top of a roof and nearly falling off and feeling vertigo for the first time in her life. And the story went into how she then worked with Bhante and explored the kind of karmic connections around why she could find herself on a roof for the first time. So you've got this image of this a nun up on a roof and doing something very practical and extraordinary. And then we're into the Dharma and what's the link and how did she work with it and what did they do and how did it help things? So she was a very engaging storyteller, and I mean that in a very positive way, because the stories brought things alive. And when you bring things alive, you make them inhabitable. They become relevant for all of us. And this is a real gift, because it's quite easy for things to become more studied and really very serious. And of course the teaching is serious and it is to be studied, but it's also to be lived. And this, I think, is what she showed us. She showed us how to live the Dharma. And it's not about being a perfect human, and it's not about having a sense of kind of control in our lives that makes things really earnest. And this is about living life with a smile. And, you know, when I remember her talks, there was not just smiling, there was a lot of laughing. She was fun. She was really fun. And so you know, so much of her song came through in the sense there might have been, you know, the Dharma got moved and it couldn't help but effervesce through her into what was a natural talent and expression for her. And this was joyful. This didn't get suppressed. It was expressed, and it made it very I'm going to say it again, made it a very living teaching. And maybe that's where I'll end it, because if nothing else, this is about it being a living teaching for us to live and for us to take forward. So I think the reflection on how she lived it and the energy and the motivation that she had, the commitment, these are things that we can take with us in our heart, and then the Dharma can live through us in her memory. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. I would like to know, is there because I am not so familiar with Zoom, how do you put the hand symbol? If somebody wants to share, can they put the symbol of hand over there? Then I can call in order. Yeah. Yes. In that same, yes. So if anybody wants to share, then keep the hand symbol on, and then I can call them to kind of share. Leanne Alberts, would you like to share?
Hello.
Hello.
My name's Brian Alberts. I've known Sister Khema. We live just outside of Washington, D.C. in America. I've known Sister Khema for almost 40 years. She's been one of my best friends for life. I think many people here can understand that feeling. I just wanted to briefly talk a little bit about the many lives she's had. She's one of the most remarkable people I've ever met. She grew up in a very high class household, complete with servants. She rejected that lifestyle. She went on to marry a man who was a Burman and raised 3 children that estranged her from her family. Many of you have probably heard some of those stories. She raised some beautiful kids. At one point, she was my next door neighbor. she was always a seeker through religion. She went from Protestant to Mormon to various Hindu, and then found a home in Buddhism. It's been remarkable and wonderful. Just one quick story from her early years. Many of you probably don't know she was arrested in Japan for anti-nuclear protests. And at the time, her husband was a officer in the U.S. in the U.S. military, so it was quite a scandal at the time. But she had her beliefs, and she was not going to let anything stop her. And I think that pretty much defines her whole life. And I hope this little snippet makes you appreciate it. So that's about it. I could go on for hours. She was a truly wonderful and amazing person. My only real regret is pretty much every time we would talk, I would say, you have to write your autobiography. And maybe through her teachings and lessons in classes, she has done that. So
Thank you.
thank you.
So she has written her memoir or a short story of how she got started and became a nun. She was planning to have a kind of the whole story of her life, but she I am still hoping that if there are manuscripts or she has an unfinished manuscript, then we will try and publish that. So I am trying to get the whatever her writing is there in this thing, a kind of her computers and everything. So I'll acquire that and I'll try and find out. So that may still happen. And thank you for sharing. And Kay, can I invite you? Am I pronouncing it right?
Thank you. Sister Khema was my cousin. And I bring our family's gratitude to your community for the care and love that you gave her. It really means a lot to us. And we always said that she never did anything halfway. And one of my memories was when I was 10 and she was 18, and we were at the beach, and she led us kids in building a sandcastle. And it was the biggest, most elaborate sandcastle I had ever seen. And that was her. She just put everything into what she did. And I admired her very much when I was 10. And she was 18. And then when she was 68, even more. And my gratitude goes to you for helping her inner light expand and for the meaning and beauty she found in her life. And thank you.
Beautiful. And we need to know about her different facets of her life, And thank you for sharing this story, because this story I have not heard from her, because we have talked a lot over the years, but this kind of her getting arrested, I did not know, because she used to kind of talk about her kind of anti-nuclear protest and the work she was doing, and she used to kind of give us statistics about how many bombs were made and all those things. She had it on her tips of her tongue. But we come to know certain new things, and thanks for sharing that. And anybody who wants to share can just raise their hand, and somebody can tell us if they don't know how to do that. Saurav, can you tell how it can be done?
Maybe they can just unmute themselves and speak up if they can't.
Yeah. Yeah, if they can unmute and speak, also you can do that. If I have to kind of ask somebody, I would like to ask Ardik, who is from Indonesia, and I think he has also had a lot of interactions with sister. He has a kind of special relationship with Bante also. He really liked Ardik and his has been teaching. So, Hardik, can you just share a few words about sister?
You, Bante. Hi,
Well, actually, I don't really know much about Sister Khema. I just met Sister Khema in 2017. I started the retreat with Bhante Vimala Ramsey in 2015. And I've heard so much about Sister Khema before. I mean, like she came with Bhante Vimala Ramsey to Indonesia and teach swims. I heard so much about her, and yeah, the first time I met her in 2017, what I remember is that she's full of knowledge. She taught like a university professor, you know, like she gonna write everything on the board and explain everything in details and everything. Yeah, and well, other than Bante, probably I asked Sister Khema a lot about the Dhamma, especially like how to teach people, and um is there any other way to explain it in easier way? Let's say that you want to explain it to a kid, small kids, and how to explain it easier. And she would, like told me everything on how the different ways of explaining things. And yeah, actually, it's just weird. Like the last time I met her was in 2009. Was it in 2019 or 2020? Yeah, that was like on Malaysia retreat before the pandemic. And after that, she went to India retreat with Bante and stayed there in Goa for almost a year. At that time, actually, when Sister Khema stayed with Bante Vimala Ramsey in Goa, I remember at that time one of my other teacher just passed away. And I told Bante we and Sister Khema, like, Bante, please don't pass away too soon. And Sister Khema was there too, and they're like, we're gonna live longer than 80 years old. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. Then suddenly Bante got ill, and Sister Khema also got cancers, and everything just, it's, I don't know how to say about it. Like suddenly Bante passed away, and after 3 months, then Sister Khema also passed away. Well, at that time I talked to Sister Khema. I think, was it early this year when she was in Budapest? And she said that she is in the middle of reconstructing her body. And I thought that, well, maybe she is practicing a kind of, elements to construct the whole bodies, or cure the cancer and things like that. And I actually kind of believe in that. But it seems like, well, body is body. And like, we can't do much about it. Yeah, just need to live and use it until the day we can't use the body anymore. Yes, well, that's probably it. I hope that I could talk much about that with Sister Khema. And actually, we were going to talk about another things and discuss things about the forgiveness. And she said that, okay, probably next time let's talk about it. And then she just passed away. Okay.
That is the reality of the world, anicca.
Yep.
So that one other way of I like the translation is uncertain. So one is impermanence. Because it is impermanent, we cannot chart the certainty. So if the graph is going in a line and it has been predictable, then we can say if it has started from here, it will come over here. But the life is not in a straight line. It is impermanent. So that is the reason it is uncertain. So whatever happens in the present or what is going to happen in the future is not certain. So one can kind of only hope to kind of be present in the present, whatever happens, to be mindful. That is the only thing we can hope for. We cannot hope for anything else. So that is the kind of the lesson, the reality of the universe, or reality of the Dhamma, is that the uncertainty which is there, the impermanence is there, the impersonality is there. And when you are not accepting the reality, that is the time you are creating dukkha. That is the time you are creating pain for yourself, when you don't accept the reality. So the pain is not the dukkha. Bhante used to say that the not accepting of the pain, that is the dukkha. So that is the lessons they have left us, and we have to kind of follow the path. And I would like to now invite Richard to share. You're on mute. Can you unmute yourself?
Now better? Yeah. Yeah, I'm Richard from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I first met Sister Khema in the Vihara Sentu, Kuala Lumpur. And that was the first time I ever met a European bhikkhuni. And I asked her, what made you be one, be a nun? And she said, just simple, suffering. So I thought about that. It's quite a profound one word, suffering. And I researched it further to know what is suffering. But I have many encounters with Sister Khema, and we've been to coffee shops, been out to restaurants, outside the retreat and so on. And she's a very relatable person. We talk about simple things like music. And I told her about my early days in college. We had a very popular American brand called the Creedence Clearwater Revival. Songs like Cotton Field, Have You Seen the Rain? And she could sing those songs with me. So it's something that she's very relatable. It's not just Dharma alone. As a person, we can relate and can understand where she's coming from. And of course, she told a story about falling off the roof and all that, and going around to the US, California with Bhante Vimaransi. So I've been following her journey to Malaysia, Indonesia, to Sri Lanka, and then to Goa, and then later to Poland and Hungary. I know it's we are sad, but then we are glad that she's on a path to Nibbana. But I have just one more a message about Bhante Vimaramsi. On the last day of our 10-day retreat in Bodhi Park, in a city outside KL, I sent them back to what you call the Sentu Vihara in KL. And it was lunchtime, and I asked Bhante Vimaransi, where would you like to go for lunch? Actually, it's a stupid question because we are in a place where he probably don't know where he was. So he says, if I'm in Missouri, St. Louis, I can tell you where we go. So at first I was a little bit annoyed that he gave me such an answer, but then I realized how stupid a question I asked him. I'm asking someone that just landed on the moon and say, where shall we go for lunch? So I feel that Bhante Vimaransi and Sister Khema has got two different ways how they relate to people and how they connect with people. Bhante Vimaransi is great with the Dhamma talks, especially after the retreat, where at night we had talk and we listened a lot of his teaching. And I think I could only absorb maybe 10% of what he has taught us. And I think we need to go back again and again to listen to his talks
to Sister Khema talks in order to get the full benefit of your wisdom. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. And Jeffrey, would you like to share?
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can clearly.
Great. I just had a couple of photos. Is it possible for me to share my screen? I will see if I can do that. I met Sister Khema in one of her virtual retreats in 2012. And then I was fortunate enough to be able to go to the dedication of the meditation hall at the Dhammasukha Center in Missouri in July of 2013. So this is some pictures from that. And I just wanted to show it because, I mean, I can hear her laughing when I see her smile like that. When we arrived, she had her staff, you know, and she was sort of just the way she was leaning on it, and all of us were coming in for the weekend retreat, and she just had this serene smile. She was probably doing metta, you know, as we were showing up, but she was just so happy that all these people were coming to the center. This was the dedication. There she is with the little girl, but her expression was somewhat like this. This is us on the way to the airport after the retreat, but I don't know. I'm sort of fumbling around with my words here, but she would sign all of her emails smiles or metta, or maybe metta and smiles, Sister Khema. And I believe others have talked about how just she was spunky and just full of life, you know. I can hear that laugh. I know that you guys know what I'm talking about. She had this full laugh when she's talking to this lady. I can just hear her. We were on our way to the airport. She was driving us there, and it was a very windy road. I remember, no visibility, and about 10 feet in front of the car, lo and behold, there's a turtle in the middle of the road. And so she slams on the brakes. She yells to me, "It's a living being. Go, get out, help that living being." And of course, we're stopped in the middle of the windy mountain pass, completely dangerous. But I flew out of the truck and to grab this turtle to rescue it. I believe a gentleman earlier was talking about how she was rescuing all of the creatures. But anyway, thanks for letting me share those photos. I don't have a whole lot of to talk about, but when I see that smile, I can hear her laugh, and I can feel that metta that she radiated so much. Thanks.
So sharing, and I just wanted to, I was reminded of just about 10 days before her passing, I think 10 or 15 days before her passing away, I had a chat with her. And the one thing she wanted to do was kind of help others. She was saying, I'll go in the hall and I'll help others. And she kind of was not able to kind of sit on her bed. But she said that, oh, I'll go over there, I'll help others, they need to kind of listen to the Dhamma or something she said. I don't remember the exact word, but then after that, I think about 2 or 3 days after that, she kind of fell. So she actually had such a desire to kind of go speak and make others people happy. And she would kind of always come back saying, oh, I made that person laugh, or I kind of had a chat with that person and he was sad, and then I made him laugh, and he forgot his troubles. So she was kind of collecting those laughs from others, you know, all the time. And just before she passed away also, she was kind of wanting to kind of share and help. She was saying, I want to help those people. So that was the kind of spirit she always had. So Pierre, if you want to share.
Yeah, so on this whole note of her energy and constant laughing and everything, when she, towards the end, and even during the retreat that Hugh was at as well, we've spoken about this so many times. She was in a house with 5 people in their, some of us in their early 20s, some in early mid 30s, as a 74-year-old nun with late stage cancer. She would still exhaust all of us. One by one, we would be dropping. And I'm sure Hugh remembers from the retreat as well. Towards the end of the night, we would be begging Sister, please, can we go to bed now? Because as soon as the Dhamma was mentioned, there was no end to the energy. It truly was not Sister in that sense anymore. She was just this, like her passion for the Dhamma was incredible. And as some of the people who just shared have talked about, like her passion and compassion for other humans and all beings was really remarkable. And one thing she was really talented. And again, it's when we first met Sister, because to give a little bit more context, I found out about Dhamma Sukha, and a couple days later, I was on my first retreat with Sister, online retreat. And very shortly after that, she was in my house. So I did not know anything what to expect. I had never met a monastic before. This is what I'm expecting something a lot more serious when you meet a monastic. I thought, oh, we're gonna have to change everything. And she comes into the house and she's talking, and you know, so she knows everything. There's nothing that happens that she is not an expert in. We went on a flight, and as the flight starts taking off, she starts telling us about the aerodynamics and the speed that's required before you pull this lever so that the plane takes off. We go, how do you know this? She's go, well, I have a pilot license. What? And so myself and Aaron and a lot of people in this business, we are very interested in martial arts. And one of us was actually a professional martial artist as well. He went to the world championships in grappling. We would sometimes start talking about this. And it turns out she's got a brown belt in karate. And during her time in Taiwan, she would be doing full force sparring with the men from the military base. And they would just not want to come back and spar with her because she would, it was just, everything you did with her, she somehow knew how to do. And in the end, it comes back to a 3-hour Dhamma talk, always, right? But what was really interesting, well, she just loved work, like anything speech or verbal was an art form for her. And I think that's why she would speak for so long, right? We called her the Dhamma machine, right? You would, even towards the last days when she was going towards that coma state, you just mentioned the Dhamma and she's awake for 3 hours. It was very interesting. But she was also very gifted musically, not just with her spoken word. And so she would love to sing and all this kind of stuff. And she could mimic animals perfectly. I'm not sure if how many of you have experienced her mimic animals. She would be talking to the birds in the apartment, mind you, at 3 a.m. when the rest of us are trying to sleep, or 4 a.m. The 4 a.m. probably. The first sound of a bird in the morning, she'll start talking to the bird. Meanwhile, the rest of us are probably trying to sleep, but she's in a conversation because apparently there's something very important for this bird to say right now. And she'll be on a 90-minute conversation with this bird and come back and tell you about the entire conversation. It's not like she's making sound back and forth. They're having a conversation. And then the bird leaves, and now there's another bird, and she knows the difference between the birds, which was incredible. So I thought I was going to share, this is not her speaking to an animal. I wish we would have recorded that. But Patrick, who couldn't make it today, recorded a video of her singing and this was right before she fell and got very ill. So this was probably towards the later days where she was still very up and going and stuff. You can see she has a neck brace because her neck was really bad. But other than that, she was walking on her own and just very happy, very uplifted. I think this was right after the retreat that Hugh was with us. I'm going to see if I can share this screen. Let's see if people can see this and hear this. Can you not hear? Okay, wait. I can fix. I think I know. There we go.
That we've gotten to the home again. I believe that the hospital's gone, and I believe we're going to the zoo, and we're going to sing to you. What are we going to say when we get to the zoo? It's going to be real fun. I'm going to tell you right now.
Yeah. So
he was clearly out of the hospital at that time.
yeah. That was in our apartment in Poland. And that was pretty much what I wanted to add. And maybe lastly, just one more thing, because there were a few people that I think felt like they felt a little bit upset with everything. I think everyone should really understand that towards the end, Sister was extremely uplifted. Like there was no sadness about understanding that her body was coming to an end. She was very at peace. She was extremely uplifted. There was no aversion at all to the fact that the body was changing and coming to an end, or towards the illness or anything. The only thing she probably did have some aversion towards was the fact that she didn't have more energy to help more people. That was the only thing. She got annoyed when she lost the train of thought, because she was in the middle of teaching Dhamma. That was it. And towards the end of her life, she reconnected a little bit more with her children as well. They came to Europe and saw her, and she met her grandchild, Adelaide, that she, after they went back to America, she did quite a few FaceTime kind of video chats with her grandchild as well. And she just absolutely adored that little girl. And no matter how bad her memory got, she was always very clear whenever we spoke about Dhamma or whenever we reminded her of her granddaughter. That was just giving her so much peace. And she died having felt very, 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 very loved towards the end, and she felt more at home as well at the hospice towards the end. She expressed because at first it was hard for her because she really enjoyed the apartment that we had, and she felt very at home there. And then it was hard for her at the hospice, but towards the end at the hospice, she expressed verbally, very, very explicitly, so that she's starting to really feel like this is okay. And she doesn't feel a rush. She would still have liked to come back to America towards the end, but it wasn't so much of a rush. And the hospice, as much as any hospice in the world, there are some people that probably are a little bit disenchanted with their work. And of course, in Hungary, people are not paid very well and that kind of stuff. So some people don't have the best morale. but many of the people at this hospice were literally modern day saints. As both sister and several of the other residents at this place, we saw a few of the people working there, a good chunk of the people working there did not feel pity for anyone. They did not feel sorry for anyone, but they were also not disenchanted at all. It was just compassion. And they really radiated that compassion to the residents, as well as Gus, the person running the hospice itself. So again, everything with this nun seemed to be on purpose. It feels like she chose everything, every single thing. It was like she knew exactly when to somehow make me find her so we could get her to Europe. She knew exactly, even at the timing of her passing, there were so many things that happened at the same time, and she was very uplifted. I don't think there's any reason to feel sad. I think she spent the last portion of her life the way that she would have wanted it to be spent, just teaching she was just teaching. We were doing everything we can to just get her as many students as we could, and she felt so good spreading the Dhamma more in Europe. And of course, through our business, met a lot of people that are quite young, and she felt so good teaching everyone and helping everyone, and that was it. That's how she wanted to spend the last portion of her life, and she didn't have aversion to the fact that this was the last portion of her life. Her confidence in the Dhamma was, I mean, it was something to behold. It was incredible. It never wavered. And the way that she passed was, I mean, it gave all of us here a completely different outlook to what passing away actually is. As we were coming closer to this thing, we were a little bit concerned with, is this going to be really hard to deal with for ourselves? But watching her go through this with such grace was just, okay, well, this is nothing to be concerned about. It's like whatever little kind of death anxiety we may have had, or I can't speak for the other guys, but it's especially for me, it just went away. And if there is anything she would have wanted other people, and I spoke to Bhante Dhammagavesi about this the other day as well, if she would have been able to choose, she would have chosen that her passing away would be used for other people's confidence in the Dhamma to deepen, and for other people's wisdom and compassion to deepen, because there was nothing else she cared about, except for also her children. That was it. And it was very, very clear. There was no sadness in her at all. It was just, I mean, outside of not being able to teach, there was a little bit of a concern, probably, that she hoped that other people wouldn't suffer from watching this happen. She was concerned a little bit, like, oh, you, like, younger people dealing with death. She was a little bit concerned with us having to deal with this. That was her concern, not for herself. It was all compassion and wisdom. into the end. The only thing that she did have a little bit of clinging to still towards the end turned out to be ice cream. She really had lots of craving for ice cream in the end. We would take her to restaurants, and if the restaurant didn't have ice cream, oh, this is actually a funny story. If the restaurant didn't have ice cream, she would make the restaurant have some ice cream every time we went somewhere. So one time we went to this place. It's called Fuego. So this is a Spanish place where you just get a little bit of roast chicken, pretty much, right? They don't have any form of dessert. There's no dessert on the menu even. It doesn't exist at this place. You come here, you get a little bit of chicken and some salad, and you leave. That's pretty much it. So we're all sitting at this big round table, and this young waiter walks right next to us. And she just grabs his hand and she goes, "Hey kid, do you want to make some money?" And he, as a young Hungarian waiter with this nun in a robe speaking to him like this, he does not know how to respond to the situation. He goes, "Okay, I guess so." And she goes, "Here's what you're gonna do. I don't care if you have to go somewhere else or if you have it in the back. If you have to go next door, if you have to run to a supermarket, what you're gonna do is you're gonna get some ice cream. And it's gonna be this," and she just gives all the specifications, almost like it was a sutta. Like, it's gonna include this and this and this, and not this and not that and not that. And she keeps repeating it, so it's super clear to him. And then she goes, "And then we're gonna have some chocolate sauce, and we're gonna have," and she the descriptions kept going on. And then she goes, "And then you charge whatever you want for it. You make as much money as you like, and then they will pay for it." And I'm like, "Okay, I guess we are." And then she just kind of gave him a little bit of a smack and sent him on his way. And sure enough, 5 minutes later, ice cream arises, and she finishes that ice cream so fast, and then she calls him over, and he has him do it one more time. And this kind of stuff just kept happening with her. We called her the rock and roll nun because we never knew what was going to happen. We just had no idea. We just knew that everything just came from total sincerity with her. There was never any games being played. There was never it was just, yeah, she cared about learning, teaching, and protecting the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. That was it, 24/7. And as she was passing, she was serene, she was peaceful, she was uplifted, she felt compassion, and there was just there's I really don't think there's any reason to be sad or to cling to her. It's not what she would have wanted. Of course, if someone feels some sadness, it's totally okay, right? But it sounds strange to even say, but I'm the one feeling sad for everyone who didn't get to be with her during that last journey because of the way she was going through it. I think she just watching her do that taught me more about the Dhamma than any retreat would ever do. It was incredible. That's pretty much.
I remember she used to call you all her children. My children are here. My children are going to take me out. So
Yeah.
I remember she kind of really adored the four of you, and Lubomir also. She used to kind of mention him also. So, and she kind of appreciated whatever you have done also for her. So always when we had talked or when we had a conversation, she would kind of be very thankful. One other thing about animals is that I remember that she used to kind of feed the strays, ensure that the dogs had the immunization, and she kind of introduced me to animals and pets. Never in my life before I met her, I had a pet. We kind of never had pets in our family, you know. So she introduced me. I was kind of surprised how kind of the dogs and cats have personality, individual kind of preferences, individual ways. And but they used to talk about it that dogs have personality, and I used to just look at it as words, you know. And with Sister Khema, I kind of had interactions, and from there a moment onwards, for this 8 or 9 years I have been in Sri Lanka, I have always, almost every day, or maybe almost every day, I have had a fed a cat or a dog. I have been feeding. So she kind of introduced me to this world of animals, and she used to kind of show me her calls, bird calls, and all these things. Why, and the birds would come directly. And she said she did not know how she knew all these things, but she could call any bird, and she could hear the sound, and then she could repeat it. So that was a very kind of a interesting part of her life. And we would like, if anybody else also wants to share. Before that, I just wanted to remind that in about 40 minutes, there would be a Dhamma Sukha live stream for Bante as stupa consecration ceremony. So that would be live stream in 40 minutes. So we will end this, if it is not ended before, then we will end it around that time. So people over here can kind of join that live stream. So is there any other persons who want to share? Yes, Hugh.
I haven't heard all of the contributions here, but I thought I would just add something about Sister Khema's life that she told me about, and others may not realize. I mean, she had a wonderful voice and she had a wonderful singing voice, but she was or had been a professional singer, and she'd run a 5-piece band, and she had toured with that band, and she talked about all the dynamics of making sure that each person got a chance to perform and solo and showcase their talents and their skills, and how she had juggled all of these things, and how she'd worked with the people who had hired them, and she was, if you like, the driving force behind this. And she had, and I've forgotten, I don't know if Kay can inform us, but I've forgotten the name of her group now. But at that time, she, of course, was not a nun at that time. So her I think her professional name was the same as her personal one, which was Louise Overstreet. And her talent just oozed out around that. And then the stories that she would have around that performing life was just another source of anecdote and story to then sort of shed light on the Dharma. So I thought I'd just add that in, because that's just another facet of Sister Khema's life, which often she would not broadcast these things. She would not lay them out, and they would only seep out occasionally if a story was relevant to some aspect of Dharma that she was describing. So I just wanted to share that as another facet of a remarkable person.
So anybody else wants to share? Somebody? Yes, if you have to go, it's okay. If anybody else wants to share, you are please welcome to share. Somebody from Sri Lanka, I can see, if they want to kind of share her time in Sri Lanka.
Yes, I would like to add a word. Sorry, I can't switch on my video as I'm driving. joined late for the program. Sorry about it. Sister Khema was my daughter's teacher at the Dhamma school in Sri Lanka when she attended it when she was rather small at Nugegoda. So for a short period of time, she used to teach the kids there and they really enjoyed it. One thing was like she was such a big person and they got to call her Sister Khema, and it was fascinating to the kids who were about, I think at that time, 10 or 10, 11 years old. So they enjoyed her chantings and all the other teaching that she did for the Dhamma school. So she was a very popular teacher, even though it was for a short period of time. And we as parents also got associated with her because there were some trips and things that they organized for the kids, and then other arms readings and then other visits. So she was very humble and down to earth and all the time preached about the importance of Dhamma and following the Dhamma. So I was very sad to learn from the then headmistress of the Dhamma school that Sister Khema has passed. So I thought I would join and express my gratitude, and sure she attaining the pilgrimage of Nirvana.
Thanks for sharing. I just wanted to share one story of Sri Lanka where I went to kind of teach her kids because she had gone somewhere and I had to kind of fill in for her. And I asked those small kids, they were like 7, 8-year-old kids, and what was the assignment given? She had given the assignment of doing the forgiveness meditation. And one kid said that he had done the forgiveness meditation. He had a fight with this other kid, and then the next day when he went out, the other kid came and was not having any grudges, and they started playing together. And I was really surprised that she could kind of convey this information to 7, 8-year-old kids, and they could actually practically use it and see the benefits. And she would teach them how to do metta meditation, by kind of sharing a metta to the parents, to grandparents, to the neighbors, and to the countrymen, and to the people of the world, and people of all the kind of realms. She used to kind of make it so easy, and I was really surprised at how can she kind of make this thing so kind of accessible to even kids. As somebody had mentioned that she had, like Dr. Madhusudan mentioned, she had certain things she was preparing for kids also. So that is a very good sharing. Thank you for sharing that and reminding us of that. Is there any other person who would like to share? Is there somebody else from Sri Lanka? Would you like to give a few words? She has also hired Sister Khema with a lot of, she used to send her verbal supplements and helped her very much, even financially and as a support. And she kind of is doing the Sunday Zoom meetings. She is managing that. So she's doing a lot of work. So can I just share your experiences with Sister Khema?
Thank you, Bhante. Actually, I don't think I'm doing a lot compared to a lot of the people, especially in the trust and Pierre and his team. But anyway, I can only think of, I think I don't want to repeat what everyone said, but I think one thing good about Sister Khema and the way she teaches is she has a knack of being quite motherly to everyone, I feel, regardless of background and age and you know, whatever. One of the things that helps me so she has a knack to ground us in the practice, like what Sarah was saying. Like, it doesn't it doesn't mean anything if we cannot apply the practice in daily life. And I'm always reminded in the simplest of way. I don't know if anyone remembers this in the I think 2 or 3 times in the classes she mentioned very briefly. She said, it's all fine and good if we have all attainments or very good experiences, but may I remind you that the dirty dishes in the sink still need to be cleaned, and that's not going to go away. So I know whenever I have dirty dishes in the sink, which is every day, I'm always reminded of Sister Khema and this very simple message. It's very simple, but it also has a lot of meaning to it in terms of grounding our practice. So that's just what I wanted to share. But thank you, Bhante.
For sharing. And one more thing is that we Sarah has wanted to have a meeting only for the women of TWIM. So I am just sharing this and we have shared it in the groups also, where I think tomorrow 1:45 India time, if the women's Sarah, I am just talking about the tomorrow's meeting, 1:45 India time. So if there are women who want to kind of come once again and speak, because as a group, Sister Khema wanted to do a lot for the women, and she kind of was an advocate of them coming to the monastic side also. So she was a big advocate of the women kind of empowering themselves and not feeling left out in the Dhamma, because certain sections of the kind of the religion side of it restrict the participation of women. So it's a very good idea that Sarah has come up with, that tomorrow they can come and remember her and remember the stories of her, and then have a discussion. So please kind of join. I've shared the details of the Zoom meeting also. So please, and Hugh will have his talk also tomorrow. There will be a meditation session, and after that you will be giving a talk. Samyutta Nikaya, no? 12.41 and 43. So I would like to kind of invite you all to kind of attend the Zoom meetings, and it is the floor is still open if somebody wants to share. Anybody who wants to share even 2 minutes or of their experiences or show gratitude. I'll just talk in Hindi also. Maybe there are certain Hindi speaking people also over here. किसी को अपना सिस्टर खेमा के बारे में, माता जी के बारे में कुछ ये करना है, शेयर करना है, तो वो अभी कर सकते हैं. Now somebody has raised the hand. Maybe they can start, they can talk now.
Hello, hi.
Yes.
I'm Keng Yu. Nice to join and listen to this sharing. I know Sister Khema from Malaysia, and yes. Okay, I better switch off my video. So I'm actually now in Singapore, but working here. But I really appreciate Mataji Khanti Khema, because just one short one. She actually helped me out when I was like soul searching. I was like not sure what to do in my life. And then I said, yeah, I have this homeopathy course, you know. So I said, okay. She told me, she strongly encouraged me to go for it. So I think there was a brother just now who shared that he married his wife, who is an Ayurvedic practitioner. So he was very thankful. So I said, along the same lines, I'm also very thankful to Venerable Khanti Khema for encouraging me to do the degree course in homeopathy. So I have graduated last year, and I'm really indebted, and I'm very grateful to Mataji Khanti Khema. So that's a short sharing and gratitude from me. So yeah, greetings to everybody, and thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna Sadhu. So, I think Dr. Madhusudan may have a Hindi meeting tomorrow at the same time, 6 p.m., which we started now. Maybe he will have a sharing in Hindi. So, हिंदी भाषी लोगों के लिए डॉक्टर मधुसूदन कल 6 बजे मीटिंग रखेंगे। तो हिंदी भाषी लोग अपने जो अभिप्राय है या अपने जो मत है सिस्टर खेमा के लिए, माता जी के लिए वो रख सकते हैं। अभी कोई है जिसको उनके बारे में कहना है, क्योंकि अभी हमारा धम्मा सुखा का भी एक प्रोग्राम चालू होने वाला है, तो उसके लिए हम को जाना पड़ेगा। तो we will have to kind of end this meeting also, because the next Dhamma Sukha for the stupa, the program would start. So I'm asking for anybody who wants to share even in Hindi. Somebody wants to share in English also, they can. Is there anybody who wants to share?
Venerable Khema Madam had come to our Pali department at Mumbai University around a year ago, and her personality was so compassionate, so full of love. I mean, it was really mesmerizing. More than word, mere presence was so much influential on our minds that we automatically started listening to what she had to share. So, thank you. Venerable Khemaji will remember you, your contribution to Dhamma, and your very compassionate approach. May you attain Nibbana with the blessings of Triple J. Thank you. Thank you, Bhadeji.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Nutan, do you want to share? You shared something on the chat regarding your kind of 3 months you are there with Sister Khema, and you're taking care of her, and you have also been in the Pali department. So do you want to share?
Actually, I want to share, but here little bit noise, so that's why I wrote the text. Am I audible rightly, properly?
Yes, you are. You are.
Yeah, first I would like to thanks to Venerable Dhammagavesi Bhantiji, because it was very amazing experience. Just a moment. Okay, sorry for interpretation. Actually, it was very nice experience. Not a nice, but I can say that it was very wonderful experience. First time I met to Sister Khema at the Department of Pali, Mumbai University, and she was, when she entered the university with the different technique of the meditation, I was wonder, because Bhante, Vimal Ramsi, Khema sister, and Dhammagavesi Bhante, they taught very unique way. Even today, this moment also I can understand the Dhamma. So I'm very much grateful. And recently, actually, I did a 1 month monastic education program, and I want to share that experience with you, Bhanteji. Actually, I gave proper 1 month. I can say that I can remember the Vimal Ramsi Bhante on the bed. I never forget that moment, and he always smiled. I look at it, what happened with me. And same thing when I was discussed with my colleague with the Khema sister, and suddenly the message pop up, we required metta for the sister, and we sat for that. And personally, I got opportunity to serve Khema sister. I gave service for 3 months. I was a caretaker. I was a participate for a few retreat also. So I never imagined without whiteboard and chalk. That was the personality, and she gave the lot of experience in our daily life. And she was, when she was living in the Mumbai, and if she don't know the native language, but she doesn't feel that ki, I don't know the native language, but her expression was that ki, okay, she could understand, she want to give the dhamma with the expression. I can but I could feel that. So it was very amazing. Even last 2-3 days I was thinking about the Khema sister, and at the one moment I realized that she was smiling. I don't know what happened, but it was amazing experience. And she always very careful with the nature. Each and every insect, each and every plants, when we went to the forest monastery, I saw that she never sit at a one place. She always roaming around, and she was caring all the natures like a baby. So she was a mother, I can say that. Thank you. And I wish that she definitely get the nibbana, and she did lot of good things. She at a time she was a counselor, she was a mother, she was a sister, and she had every solution. But I never think that she don't have a solution. If you take any problem, she will easily solve it. And, oh, great. So it was very beautiful and wonderful experience. I never forget that. Even until now, okay, she gave the capacity to understand the situation and how to solve the problem. She gave the third views, I can say that. So I'm very much fortunate to I took this opportunity to serve the dhamma. So thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you very much. Shashi, are you there? Shashi, आप हो यहाँ पे? कल हिंदी के अंदर होगा तो वो कर सकते हैं, या आप 2 मिनट, because Shashi Sawant is over here. You can see her photo is there with the Ambedkar's photo. Shashi Sawant is a person whose house she stayed in. We kind of Dhammasukha paid for the many of the constructions and everything in lieu of her staying there. And his father and mother were just next door. They had a common wall actually, and they used to kind of help her with food. So a lot of time where she stayed in Ulhasnagar, they helped her with food and support. And if they wanted to go somewhere or anything, he would kind of drive her around. So there's a lot of things. So tomorrow maybe the Hindi we can call him. And I think the Dhammasukha thing is starting now. So we will end this. So people will have an opportunity to kind of join the Dhammasukha live stream of Bante's Stupa. So we'll share the merits, and we'll end this. And Nibbana Pachayo Hotu, let Sister Khema attain Nibbana, all her good work she has done. And the way she kind of passed away, she chose her time very carefully. There were a lot of good kind of omens at that time. So we'll just share 1 second. Somebody is there. Yes. Sorry, somebody, a young monk had come to just get something from me. So we'll share the merits, and we hope that sister attains the final Nibbana in the due course. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, Devas and Nagas with mighty powers, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you everybody for coming.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Banti.
It was really nice to see everybody from the bottom of a hat. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, everyone.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu.